Hey folks, today I want to introduce you to my new base, the Spiral Sentry. This base was built as a companion base to my crafting base called the Eko Craft. I'll be showing you several different configurations of this. The one you're looking at now is the endgame version, but there's a ton of configurable components here, including the stairs, the trap layout, and whether or not you have this directly connected to your crafting base. So we're going to do a quick tour here, and then I'll give you block by block instructions on how to build it, and then I'll toss a max game stage horde at it, and we'll see how it fares. So just to give a little context, this base was developed for my Abyss series, where the block damage that zombies do increases by 5% per day. This means that you have to make sure that every single block counts and that you have to have redundancy in all situations. To that end, I set up the Spiral Sentry with 2 redundant fighting positions, one on each side, and these have vault doors that are powered, but you could also use powered iron doors. And there's a switch up here. When you turn this on, it's going to bring that door up, which makes this the active path for zombies to come across. Additionally, when you flip that switch, it's going to turn on the electric fence that goes across here, as well as the lighting up on these 2 corners. Down below, you've got a grenade chute that you can use with a safety block down here so you cannot fall through it. You can also pivot around and shoot at zombies that are hitting any of the pillars down below. This whole setup is replicated on the other side. Switch on and off from here as well. So if one side fails, you can just switch over to the other. You've got some storage across the back here. And then up on the rooftop here, we've got a few last items. We've got spotlights around the corners. And then we've got these SMG auto turrets to deal with birds. Now, the one last thing that I'll mention down here is during Horde Night, you have this separation process where this door goes closed and that gets closed, that gets opened, and this gets opened, and then you close this. And that makes it so that if zombies try to pass through here, it's going to force them off. So lastly, we'll talk about the approach for the zombies. Now, I've got 2 sets of stairs I'm going to show you. This is kind of the basic set, and I had to adapt this for the end game. But the zombies will rotate up around here, come across here if this vault door was open, path across, and then hit that electrical fence, and then you would beat the crap out of them. Now, I found that this was not quite robust enough for an end game type of situation. So I do have a more robust set of stairs. Still follows the same concept, but it's got some ladders that have been added onto it to add for additional stability and ways for zombies to pass. To get started on this build, we're going to need to have a space that is 7 by 30 meters. And then if you're going to build the full breadth with the Eko Craft included, you're going to actually need 37 by 30 meters. The first thing that we're going to build is the 4 pillars, and you'll see the parts and pieces needed for those up on the screen right now. And we'll start off with the 4 blue areas that are 2 by 2 using arrow slit 1/2 ramp blocks in a diagonal configuration like this. And we're going to go up 6 blocks. I'm a little bit off screen, but trust me, it's 6. And then right after that, we're going to come onto the inside of these with simple pole blocks, and we'll just place those in between there. And then once that's done, we'll run around to the front side, and we're going to add ramp incline 1/2 left blocks. And I've oriented it towards the bottom, but honestly, you could do that either way. Once you're done with the first pillar, you'll just repeat that on the other 3, rotating the orientation to create an octagon, essentially. Next, we're going to use the shapes on screen right now to be able to build out the platform we're going to build the rest of the base on. To do this, I find it easier to build out some scaffolding. So around the 4 corners, we're going to go ahead and place frame shapes, because this is going to make it a little bit easier for us once we start placing the blocks up above. Now that we have the scaffolding in place, we're going to simply nerd pull up using the frame shapes, and then we're going to start in the back left corner here, and we're going to make an outline of the exterior using simple cube shapes. The exception will be on the right and left sides. We're going to make a couple of frame shapes come inward in the center block position, and these are placeholders that I'll explain in a second, but for right now, go ahead and fill the rest in with cubes. Now we're ready to go ahead and add the grenade chutes, so we can go ahead and pull those 2 frame shapes out, and then we're going to put a ramp block on the edge angled so we have easy sight lines, and then repeat the same thing on the opposite side. Now in the space right behind that, we're going to go ahead and put in steel or iron shutters. Either ones will work, but these will give us the ability to open these up and huck grenades during Horde Night. At the end of the build, we'll go back and add a protection feature so that we don't fall through. Next, we're going to go to the 2 fighting position sides and add cube corner beveled blocks facing outward like this. These are going to be the little pods where we place the electrical fences, and around these we're going to place ramp corners. For each cube corner beveled, there'll be 1 ramp corner in the center, and then you'll have 2 on the outside like this. Then you'll simply repeat that on the other side, 1 on the inside, and then 2 on the outside here. Once you finish one of the fighting positions, you'll just go to the other side and repeat the exact same process. Now all we have to do to finish off the platform section is to add poles at the ends of the cube corner beveled. To do this, I recommend putting a few frame shapes out from the center bit here. Just be careful as you're stepping back that you don't fall. And that'll give you the correct angle to be able to reach out. And right on the tips of these, we're just going to add poles rotated so that these support the scaffolding blocks. They'll end up going above them. And then again, simply repeat on the other side. Now we're ready to add the sides onto the base. And so here are the block shapes that you'll need for one side. So you'll need to multiply that by 2. Additionally, we're going to put these 2 markers here right in the center. If you line it up with a door across the way, it's really easy. Otherwise, just count it out. And then on top of these, we're going to put in ramp cube 1/2 corner bevel blocks. So 4 high on that side and another 4 of those on the other side here. Next, we're going to flip over to cube 0.25 M blocks. These are going to be our primary blocks for the wall, so we'll use this to frame out where the door goes, as well as the scaffolding ladders that'll go in here sideways later to prevent cop spit coming in from one side all the way across. So essentially, you're going to leave this T pattern open, and then you'll fill in the last 5 across the top. You're going to split your remaining 0.25 meter blocks in half, and you'll put half on the right side like this and half on the left side like so. Next, we're going to bring out our ramp blocks and we're going to orient them to line up with our ramp corners. So each spot that had a ramp corner, you're going to place 3 ramps on top of it. After those are placed, we're going to put 3 scaffolding plates on top of the pole that we had in the front, and then repeat that on the other side. And then behind each of the top scaffolding plates, we're going to place just a plain old cube. Then we're going to go ahead and top those cubes with gable wedge 60 cube halves. Now all we need to do to finish off these pods is to take the ramp corners that we have remaining and place them on top of the 6 ramps that we have on this front face. This leaves us ready to frame up the fighting position, so we'll go down below here, and then we'll essentially frame out a doorway with cubes here. So we'll go up 3, and then we'll go up 3 here, and then we'll connect them across the top. And then you can just have a row of cubes that goes the whole way across above that. Now all we have left to do to finish up this side is to place ramps on those 2 jagged areas to each side. So 1, 2, 3 here, and then 1, 2, 3 here on the opposite side to even things out. So that's the basic wall structure for this side. So we're just going to simply repeat that same pattern on the other side. After we're done with this, we're ready to move on to the fighting positions. So here's the various block shapes that we'll be using, and we're going to start off with the baluster rail 02. So we'll place one inside the door frame, and then we're going to rotate it 180 degrees and place another on the outside. Next, we'll place a cube 1/2 1 meter hole block above that, and then in front of that, we'll place a pillar 0.025 M double. At the bottom, we'll place wedge narrow tips on each side, and then above those, we'll put pillar 1/4 triple blocks going up 3 blocks on each side. And then to sit flush with those, we'll put wedge narrow low blocks above those, flipped in the opposite direction. Now we just have to add the wedge to force zombies off, so we're going to use wedge narrow middle up here at the top, and then right below it a wedge 60 offset block, and then finally 2 wedge 60 tip blocks. We'll place the first one, and then we'll rotate it 180 and place it below to give you that point. Now that we've finished one side, we'll simply replicate this on the other, but to get back up into the base, we should slap some ladders on the back here. So if you're doing the standalone version of the base, you'll actually want to reinforce these. But if you're doing the connected version to the Eko Craft, frame shapes will do fine because we're just going to pull them out later. So now we have an easy way back into the base. We're just going to replicate the other side like I mentioned before. And then we'll be ready to move on to the interior corridor as well as the roof. The central hallway is pretty straightforward. We're going to start off with placing a door in this opening that we left earlier. So this could be an iron door or a vault door, and then we're going to put scaffolding ladders in the sides, and these are helpful because you can shoot through them, but cops cannot spit through them. So if you have a breach, you can always hide, close the door, and shoot at any enemies that are stuck in that little area. Now that we have those 2 little areas polished off there, we're going to pull out these blocks that we used as spacers earlier and put a couple storage crates here. And then right above those, we're going to put in the ramp window 01 centered blocks. And we're just going to rotate these so that we get a diamond shaped window on the side. But depending upon your preference, you could switch this out with any other type of window shape. To finish off the hallway, we'll go ahead and place a double door at the opposite end of the window. And once that's in place, we're ready to work on the roof. We'll go 2 blocks up, and then we'll place scaffolding ladders, and then we'll take those up, and then we'll place a 3rd one on top once we're up on top of the roof area here. Next, we're going to move around the base and place place cube narrow pyramid base blocks in the 4 corners. Once we get to the electrical portion of the base, this is where we'll be placing these spotlights. After you have those in place, you'll be able to go right between them and place cube corner beveled blocks with the bevel facing towards the outside like so. You'll just carry this the whole way around. After that, you'll add on to the end of each of those blocks with wedge 60 tip 1/2. And when you get to the long sides, the easiest way to start these is to walk down onto those ramp corners and then place the first block, and then you can just kind of back up and place them as you go. Once that's done, you can just fill the entire ceiling area in with basic cubes. Now the only thing we have left to do is to go ahead and slap a hatch on the opening here, and we are done with the roof area. Next, we're going to add some trim to the exterior of the windows here. So we're going to use poles and pull plate corners to do this. So we're going to frame out the sides of this using poles. And then we'll use 2 pull plate corners on the bottom with the large portion facing to the top, and then 2 up top with the large portion facing down. Now we can start on the stairs, and the first thing to note that the 3x3 area that the stair starts is exactly 7 blocks away. And then we're going to start by placing 5 cubes on top of each other right in the center of that 3x3 space. After that, we'll start building the stairs on the right side if you're looking away from the base, starting with the stairs filled 1/4. So you'll do 1 and then 1 up the next level, and then underneath it, you're going to place a ramp to create that underside incline and give support for the next block up. When you get to the corners, you'll be using ramp 1/2 stairs, 0.5 meter blocks. Then off the edge of that, you'll run around to the back side and add a ramp angled up again. And then you just keep cycling. So you'll run back up the stairs here, and then we're going to put another one of those stairs filled 1/4, and then we'll run back down to the bottom and put another ramp going up. And then we're back to the corner there. So we're going to again use the ramp 1/2 stairs, 0.5 meter. Back down to the bottom for another ramp, and then back up to the top for another stairs filled 1/4. On top of the 5 original cubes, we're going to place 2 ramps on an angle like this so that they match up with that ramp 1/2 stairs, 0.5 meter. And then we'll place our final ramp on the back side of that angled up. Back up at the top of the spiral, we'll go ahead and place our last ramp 1/2 stairs, 0.5 m. angled in towards the center like this. Then all we need to do is place our last cube right up here at the top, and then we're ready to place the security gates across, giving our pathway for the zombies. Now, if you left your scaffolding out there from creating the fighting position, you can easily reach right across. Otherwise, you might need to run below to place these blocks. Then you're going to make sure that you have 2 spaces open at the end. You'll pull these blocks out, and now we're going to go ahead and place the vault door here, and we want to make sure that it's rotated on its side such that when it opens, it provides a surface for the zombies to run across. So you want to make sure that that latch is sitting down at the bottom, and you can tell because when you place it, it's going to rotate up like you saw there. So that is the basic stair. Let's go show you how to build the more enhanced and a little bit more robust version. Now, the interesting thing about this is that the robust version is actually much easier to build. So just like the basic one, the stairs are going to go up on the right side. So we're going to build a tower of cubes 2x2 that goes up 5 blocks in total, as you see I'm doing here. So again, 2x2 going up 5 blocks. Then we're going to come down to the bottom here, and we're going to skip 1 in, then go 1 block, 2 blocks, 3 blocks. I think you're getting the pattern here. So we're just going to carry this up around with cubes first, and then we'll come back afterwards and fill these in with actual stairs. So down at the bottom, this will follow the same pattern as before. We'll have stairs filled 1/4. So we'll place 2 of those, then we'll place a ramp 1/2 stairs, 0.5 m. And then we'll go back to the stairs filled 1/4. And then the ramp 1/2 stairs, 0.5 m. And then another stairs filled 1/4. Similar to the basic stairs, we're going to stack 2 ramps on this corner that line up again with that ramp 1/2 stairs, 0.5 m. And then we'll round the corner with another ramp 1/2 stairs, 0.5 m. Now all we need is a couple cubes back behind there, and we're ready to put the security gates across to the fighting position. So just like the other stair configuration, we're going to be using security gate centered blocks, and we'll bring them all the way back here to where we are. We'll take out this block, add 1 in here, take these out, and then we'll go ahead and put a vault door just as we did on the other side. Now, in testing on the high game stage, I did run into some issues, and that's why we're going to add these next set of blocks. We're going to add an additional path upward using ladder round blocks, and I'm going on the left side here, And then on this side, we'll go center. But honestly, you could place these wherever you wanted just to give an additional pathway up. And you're going to want to use the round ladder, not the scaffolding ladder in this case. In the situation up above, we didn't want projectiles to pass through, but in this case, it's actually advantageous if they do, because these ladders won't take damage from your own shots or cop spit. Now that we have all the approaches finished, we can go ahead and remove all the scaffolding underneath, and then we're going to put in our safety block. For this, we're going to use a wedge narrow tip, and we're going to use it to angle and line up with the bottom of the base, and then jutting out from it will be a pull 1/2 side centered block. And once we've done this one, we'll just repeat on the other side. So as I mentioned earlier, if you want to go with this as a standalone, you can just reinforce the existing stairs that you have here. Otherwise, go ahead and pull these out, go ahead and knock down the ladders on the other side, and then we're going to build the bridge between the two bases here. So we're going to start off mimicking the blocks we have over there. So we've got this narrow block here that we're going to bring across 1, 2, and 3. And then we're going to go ahead and mimic it on the other side. You can just copy the rotation and bring it 1, 2, 3. Once you do this, you can go ahead and place the double doors in. Now we're going to push till we can see the other side. We're going to hit advanced rotate, and we're going to aim it towards that little blue section on the opposite side. Now the important part here is we want to have the frames facing towards the outside. So you see how the frame is butted up against the other base. So we'll go ahead and place that. Now, if you went back and placed it again, you'd see the frame is in the middle, and we don't want that. So we're going to go ahead and rotate this a few more times. And there we go. Now what this does is it has the frames on this side and the opposite side, so that if you open these both up, it creates a full gap in the center. So now that we have this, we can walk out on here and go ahead and place the rest of our blocks. We're going to start with windows. We're going to be using these window industrial O2 full. So we'll go 1, 2, and 3 along here. And then same thing, we'll just flip them around 1, 2, and 3 along here. And then right above that, we'll be able to go with these cube 0.25 meters, advanced rotated. And we're going to go 1 and 2. And actually, we're just going to go 1 and 2. Flip it to the other side, 1 and 2, because I realized we had a slight mistake here. So we're going to instead go up here and finish this off. So we're going to grab these. Make sure it's oriented with this, it's sloping down towards you like that. And this is a wedge narrow high. So we'll go 1 and 2. And then we've got these 3/4 cube blocks, and we're just going to rotate them until they're flush against that. That should be right there. Correct. So we'll go 1 and 2 and 1 and 2, and that'll sit flush up against the top. Then we're going to mimic what we have over here on the back side here. So right underneath these, the narrow high block that we placed there, we're going to go ahead and place this. So we'll come in here like this, and then rotate the other one like so. And that does your connection between the two bases. And now you can have your full separation here by pulling these out and doing that. So now all we need to do is wire everything up. So we're going to wire it up, assuming that you do have the Eko Craft. So you're going to toss a generator up here, throw 3 engines in it, turn it on, gas it up, all that good stuff. In the 4 corners of the room, we're going to add basic lights real quick. And once those are in place, we'll go ahead and wire those up to the generator. And I am going to go ahead and wire these in series because we're not really worried about this base taking damage on this side. It is something you want to consider for redundancy. So we're going to head over here. We're going to go ahead and place a couple lights up there, a couple lights up here. And now we're going to bring power back over from the crafting side to the Horde base side. Now lights will act as a relay, which is exactly what we're going to do here. So we're going to come in and connect up here. And in this case, I'm not going to run in series because if we lose one of those lights, we lose the whole chain. So this way we can actually have a little bit of redundancy. So we'll separate everything out, essentially left and right. And now we're going to go ahead and come here and we're going to add a switch up above on each side above the doorway. That's well out of range of cop spit. And now I'm going to go add the electrical components to each side. So electric fences go in the corner facing up here. Then we're going to have lighting up in the corner here and here. And then we'll just repeat that on the other side. So light, electric fence, And now we're good to wire everything up. All right, so we're going to come off of this to the switch. And then from the switch, everything downstream of this will be powered when that switch gets turned on. So we've got the electric fence that'll come on. And then the next thing we'll do, we'll go ahead and wire up the door. So that'll switch the lane on. And lastly, we're going to switch on those two lights. So essentially what this is going to do is when you switch the light on, it's going to bring the door up, which makes the lane active. It's going to turn the electric fence and the lighting all on. Now we simply repeat this on the other side, exact same strategy. We pull off the light using it as a relay, going to the switch, from the switch to the electric fence and to the other one. So while I'm finishing this up, it's really important that you always have the electric fence end in a direction that you know. So in this case, my electric fence ends on the right side because that's going to be the side that's repaired. That way, if I'm in the middle of Horde Night, I don't have to think. I know that the electric fence on the right is always the one that has to be repaired if it is damaged. So lastly, we're going to put some components up here on the roof. We're going to add 4 spotlights facing the fighting directions. This is going to make sure that we have plenty of light during Horde Night. So we'll put 2 facing this way and then 2 facing this way. And then lastly, we're going to put 2 SMG turrets in the center. And we're going to do this to deal with the buzzards so we don't even have to think about them during the evening. So again, we're going to pull in redundant fashion in this case, because the top is likely to sustain damage. So I'm not going to put these in series. I'm actually going to go straight from that light up there to the individual spotlights on the sides. And we're going to separate them so that 2 go to one side and 2 go to the other. Likewise, we'll pull a feed off of this light and have 1 go to one SMG turret and 1 go to the other. So I'm going to repeat the same format on the other side, but while we do, we're going to get into a Horde Night here in just a second. But prior to that, I'm also going to walk through a few optional changes that you can make to the base that allow it to contend with a higher game stage Horde that you can kind of do as you go, so that you don't need these for the earlier game stage, but you can evolve the base and add some firepower to it. So the first optional change you can make is to move the power over to the Horde side of the base, or if you're doing a standalone, you can do it this way. But right up above the doorway where you come in, you can go ahead and put the generator loaded up with as many engines as you need, because depending upon how many add-ons you add on, you're going to need more power. So in this case, you would just wire it to here and then follow kind of the same sequence we did before. The next option will give you some extra firepower that you can turn on and off. You're going to remove these 3 blocks here and these 3 blocks on this side. Once you do this, you're going to replace the top block with a simple ramp on both sides. And the scaffolding plank that we removed, we will replace with a security gate. After that, we're ready to add in 2 SMG turrets, or you could actually do shotgun turrets if you wanted. I like SMG turrets to not have to worry about block damage. So we'll place those up there. We're going to put a switch up above, and then we'll just pull power back from the generator or whichever source you want to pull from. And then we'll go from here to each of the SMG turrets. So this gives you an optional bit of firepower to turn on and off if you start to get overwhelmed. So the next option gives us some under base firepower, and we're going to start by knocking out the block right below the door here. We're going to drop through here, hopefully not break a leg. And then underneath here is where we're going to place our powertrain, but we're going to get to that in a second. So the first thing we're going to do here is we're going to grab scaffolding blocks and we're going to build up a frame for this. So this will be a 2 wide and 6 tall wall on both the left and the right side outside of that red 2x3 area that you see. And then coming down from the ceiling, we're going to also make a 2x3 of just plates. And this is going to allow us to add the generator up here. So we'll place the generator here. We'll jump up and go ahead and load it up with 4 engines. You're going to have to test and see how many you'll end up needing at the end, but we're going to go ahead and fuel this puppy up, turn it on. And then across the bottom, we're going to place dart traps heading in opposite directions and then top those with cubes. Then we're going to put 2 SMG turrets facing this direction, run around to the backside, place 2 SMG turrets facing the opposite direction. And then we're going to put in motion sensors to trigger all of this. So we'll have 1 motion sensor on this side and then 1 motion sensor on the other. So this is going to allow it so that when the zombies are coming underneath and hitting on your pillars, it will trigger all these to come on and wreck them. So we're going to put a couple cubes up at the top just to start filling this in, and then we'll get all of this wired up. So we'll start from the generator and we'll come down from the generator to the motion sensor on this side. And then we're going to hook from this motion sensor to all of the devices on this side. Once we have that set up, we actually want to make sure that we have the settings on the motion sensor right. So we're going to come into this, hold E. Instant and triggered is good, but we don't want it shooting when we're down here. We want it shooting when zombies are down here. So turn this and this off and turn target zombies on. You'll follow the same pattern for wiring on the other side, and then you'll be good. Lastly, we're going to cover everything up here. We're going to go ahead and fill in cubes in those spots. We're going to put railing blocks across the bottom and then plates in the center and plates on the top. You want to make sure you use railings because otherwise you won't be able to reach through to reload. So now that you've learned how to build it, we're going to toss a horde at this sucker and see how it does. The only thing I didn't cover in the tutorial was the blade traps that I slapped on here at the last minute. But I have full faith that you'll figure that one out. Let's see how Horde Night goes. Initial pathing looks good. The lower level traps are already doing a good job of kind of thinning them out as they approach. But eventually the numbers will overwhelm us. With 64 zombies, they do stack up quickly. All right, let's get some grenades down at the bottom. See ya, big mama. All right, so here's what it looks like from below where the SMG turrets and the dart traps are firing. You can see we're just launching them over the edge. The stun baton does really good work. So the blade traps that I added give a little bit more protection to the pillars below, and you can easily connect them up to the same switch that flips the vault door up and down. As you can see here, though, we've already lost one. They are not super robust and will not survive an endgame Horde Night, but they will do some damage and let you sustain a little bit longer. So the biggest concerns to this base are demos and cops, not surprisingly. You can see a demo just went off down there and took a huge chunk out of the stairs. So this side is still viable, but we're going to go ahead and flip the switch here, which is going to bring up the vault door on the other side, and we're going to close this one and drop these guys off. I'm going to clean up the last few big mamas hanging out over here, and then we'll pivot over to the other side. And you can see that they have adjusted and are pathing appropriately once we flip the door up here. So this Horde Night's going pretty well, but it definitely didn't start that way. I had to go through several iterations of this to get to a sustainable version that could handle the endgame Horde. I like the overall compact design and the fact that you've got some modular add-on components that increase your firepower are really, really nice. One of the positives on this base is that it's pretty low resource to put together, but that is unfortunately one of the negatives, as it also can be a little bit fragile without having a significant number of traps to help deal with the Horde. Now, if you're looking at running anything below, 64 zombies, insane nightmare, gamestage 720 type stuff, this base is going to do really, really well. But if you're going to crank it up, make sure you leverage some of the add-ons that I taught how to make. So while I clean things up here, I'm going to talk about the base a little bit. You can see it has taken a bit of a beating, but it has crazy amounts of stability. So I think you can lose 2 of the legs easily of the undercarriage of the base and it'll still stand strong. The stairs held up really well. If you use the thinner stairs that I used earlier, those will get shredded in this late game version. And if you want to see how that works out, you can go check out my series, The Abyss, where I built this base in-game. It's a little bit different because I've evolved it since then, but that version was up against 215% block damage from zombie AI. So the difficulty was over only survivalist 64 zombie, but man, that block damage makes a huge difference. So I hope the Spiral Sentry provided you with some inspiration. And if you end up building this in your world, please drop by my Discord and drop a picture in so I can see how you kind of took this and, put your own spin on it. Hey folks, it's Eko here. I hope you enjoyed the Spiral Sentry. This has been one of my most complicated tutorials thus far, so let me know how I did down in the comments. And as always, a huge thanks to my Patreon supporters over here. Much love to y'all, and I will see everyone on the next one. Cheers.